Alright, y'all. Check this out. Itinerent here, bringing you another very special Commander deck. Today, we have the Easter Bunny with Kwain, Itinerent Meddler. This is a very fun Azorius control deck where our primary focus is drawing cards, kind of like a group huggy aspect of a control build, but we're going to be drawing as many cards as possible and taking over the entire game just by drawing cards, having our opponents draw cards, and everything in between. So, let's get right into it. We can activate him. Each player may draw a card, and then whoever drew a card can gain a life. So, let's get into all those creatures. All these creatures are going to allow us to draw as many cards as possible. So we have Arcanus, the Omnipotent. We can activate him to draw 3 cards, and if we need to protect him, we can pay 2 colorless and 2 blue, and then return him back to our hand. Of course, we have the OG Consecrated Sphinx. Whenever any opponent draws a card, we can draw 2 cards. And my personal favorite, we have Dream Trawler. Whenever we draw a card, Dream Trawler will get +1/+0 until the end of turn. And whenever Dream Trawler attacks, we get to draw a card. And if we need to protect him, we could always just discard a card. Now we have some creatures that are going to allow us to draw as many cards as possible. So we have Kami of the Crescent Moon. At the beginning of each player's draw step, we get to draw a additional card. Now we have a new one. We have Vinwixt Verbose Host. It has Start Your Engines. So once we have max speed, if we would draw a card, we would draw 2 cards instead. We also have no maximum hand size. We have many iterations of being able to keep all these cards that we draw in our hand. Now we have Scrawling Crawler. The beginning of each player's upkeep, we get to draw a card. And then whenever a opponent would draw a card, that player will lose 1 life. Now we have Walking Archive. This is a 1/1 defender, so it can't attack. But whenever Walking Archive enters the battlefield, it'll enter with a +1 counter on it. And then at the beginning of every single player's upkeep, they get to draw a card for each +1 counter that's on Walking Archive. We can activate Walking Archive to put +1 counters on this. That way he's going to scale and we get to draw as many cards as possible. Now we have Jace's Archivist. This has a activated ability where each player is going to windfall. We get to discard our hand and then draw cards equal to the number of cards discarded this way. Forcing our opponents to draw cards when they really don't want to is a very good strategy on winning the game. And we're going to be drawing so many cards, we can win the game very quickly. Now we have Jushi Apprentice. This has an activated ability where we can pay 2 colorless and a blue. We get to draw a card. And then if we have 9 or more cards in our hand, we get to flip the Apprentice. It'll become Tamayoya the Revealer, which has a much more powerful activated ability where we can pay 3 colorless and 2 blue. Then target player will draw X cards, where X is the number of cards in their hand. Now we have some creatures that their power and toughness are going to be equal to the number of cards in our hand and still provide us with a lot of value. Of course, we have Psychosis Crawler. This has a static effect. Whenever we draw a card, each opponent will lose a life. Now we have Kiyomaru, First to Stand. As long as we have 4 or more cards in our hand, he'll have Vigilance, and whenever he deals damage, we get to gain 7 life if we have 7 or more cards. Now we have Soramaru, First the Dream. We can pay 4, return any land back to our hand, and draw a card. Especially if that land had a very special activated ability. We can just keep doing that over and over. Now we have some creatures that are going to help us just win the game on the spot, such as Stricadecaphile. He'll allow us to have no maximum hand size as well, and then every single upkeep, if we have exactly 13 cards in our hand, we win the game. Or we can just dump mana and draw cards. That way, we can get to exactly 13 cards when we absolutely need to. And because we're going to be drawing pretty much our entire deck, we have Thassa's Oracle. Really don't need to explain Thassa's Oracle too much. When it enters the battlefield, you get to scry X. If X is less than 2, you win the game. Now we have some creatures that are going to synergize with everything we're doing. Because most of our creatures have activated abilities, we have Drum Bellower. We get to untap every single creature during each other player's untap step. And in case some of our permanents get destroyed, we have Sun Titan. That way, when he enters or attacks, we can return those permanents mana cost 3 or less back to the battlefield. And of course, we have Loran of the Third Path. When it enters, we get to destroy a artifact or enchantment. Just by activating Loran, us and another target opponent will draw a card. Okay, let's get into the enchantments. Most of these enchantments are gonna allow us to draw cards or punish our opponents for drawing cards. Of course, we have Mystic Remora. We have Wizard class. The first level, we have no maximum hand size. And then level 2, we get to draw 2 cards. And then level 3, whenever we draw a card, we can put a +1 counter on target creature. Level 3 is really going to benefit with the Walking Archive, because then we can continually put as many +1 counters on Walking Archive. Now we have Proph's Eidetic Memory. When this enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card. We have no maximum hand size as well. And then at the beginning of combat, if we've drawn more than 1 card, we get to put even more counters on a target creature, where X is the number of cards we've drawn minus 1. Now, my personal favorite is Psychic Corrosion. Anytime we draw a card, each opponent is going to mill 2 cards. Of course, we have Teferi's Ageless Insight. If we would draw a card, we get to draw a additional card. Now we have some enchantments that are going to help protect us from our opponents. So we have Ghostly Prison and Propaganda. That way, our opponents have to pay mana in order to attack us. And even more so, because we have a decent amount of enchantments, we have Sphere of Safety. They're going to pay even more mana, equal to the number of enchantments we control. Okay, let's get into the artifacts. We have our Soul Ring, our Arcane Signet, our Thought Vessel. Thought Vessel is a really cool mana rock because it will allow us to have no maximum hand size as well. We have our Azorius Signet, and in case we need a basic land, we have Wayfarer's Bauble. Of course, we have Mind Stone. If we don't need the mana, we can just sacrifice it and draw a card. Of course, we have Thran Dynamo to produce as much colorless mana as possible. Now we have some equipment that are going to help us draw cards as well. So we have Imperial Plate. The equipped creature will get +1/+1 for each card in our hand. Now we have Diviner's Wand. The equipped creature will have, whenever we draw a card, it'll get +1/+1 and flying. Also, it'll give it the ability of paying 4 mana to draw a card. Then, whenever another wizard enters the battlefield, we can attach Diviner's Wand to that creature. Most of our creatures are wizards, so that's going to benefit really well. Now we have Robe of the Archmagi. Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage, we get to draw that many cards. It'll lower the equip cost as well if it's a shaman, warlock, or wizard. Now we have some artifacts that will just draw us as many cards as possible. So we have Howling Mine. Every single draw step, we get to draw a additional card. Now we have Folio of Fancies. Every single player will have no maximum hand size, but we can dump mana into this, and each player will draw X cards. And then we can activate it for 3. Then each opponent will mill equal to the number of cards in their hand. Of course, we have Temple Bell. We can just keep activating this, and each player will draw a card. Now we have Isochron Scepter. That way we can imprint either a counter spell or certain spells that will allow us to draw cards as well. And in case we need to get everything back, we have Elixir of Immortality. That way we don't mistakenly mill ourselves out. We can just keep shuffling our graveyard back into the library and gain 5 life. Okay, let's get into the instants. We have Vision Skeins. That way each player will draw 2 cards. This would be a good choice to imprint on Isochron Scepter. Of course, we have Sphinx's Revelation. We can gain X life and draw X cards. We have the classic Brainstorm. We can draw 3 cards and then put 2 cards back on top of our library. A more important one with Isochron Scepter is Dramatic Reversal. If we imprint Dramatic Reversal on Isochron Scepter and we have a mana rock, we can just keep casting Dramatic Reversal and produce infinite mana. And the world is your oyster with infinite mana. Now we have some counter spells. So we have Arcane Denial. This is a counter spell that will draw cards. We're going to draw a card, and our opponent who casts the spell will draw 2 cards at the beginning of the next upkeep. Of course, we have Counterspell. Now we have Dissipate. We're going to counter a spell, and instead of that card going to the graveyard, it'll get exiled instead. Now we have Dovin's Veto. When we really need to counter a non-creature spell, because Dovin's Veto can't be countered as well. Now we have Render Silent. I like this one against opponents who are on a Spell Slinger build or any kind of combo, because we're going to counter that spell and then they can't cast any more spells after that. Now we have some removal spells. So we have Cyclonic Rift, when you just need to deal with the entire board. Heliod's Intervention. We can either gain twice X life, or we can deal with as many artifacts or enchantments as we need to. Now we have Return to Dust. This one's kind of cool because instead of destroying the artifact or enchantment, we can exile it instead. Okay, let's get into the sorceries. What better sorcery than Windfall? Each player is going to discard their hand and then draw cards equal to the number of cards discarded that way. We have Prosperity. That way each player will draw as many cards as possible. Now we have Gift of Estates. This is going to help us get more lands on the battlefield so we can stay ahead of our opponents. Now we have a whole bunch of mass removal. So we have Wrath of God, Supreme Verdict, Day of Judgment. Now we have Time Wipe. This is a Wrath, but also we can protect a creature just by returning that back to our hand. And probably the best one in Commander right now is Farewell. It doesn't matter what it is, we're just going to exile all of it, whether it be graveyards, enchantments, creatures, or artifacts. Okay, let's get into the planeswalkers. All these planeswalkers are going to help us control the board and just draw cards. We have the original Jace Beleren. We can +2 him. Each player will draw a card, or we can just have a single target draw a card by -1. Or we can -10, and then target player will mill 20 cards. Now we have a pseudo win condition with Jace Wielder of Mysteries. Similar to Thassa's Oracle, if we would draw a card while our library has no cards in it, we win the game. We can +1 Jace Wielder of Mysteries. We're going to mill 2 cards and then draw a card. Or we can -8. We can draw 7 cards, and then if our library has no cards in it, we win the game. So there's 2 effects of winning the game just by drawing cards. Now we have a very powerful one. We have Teferi Hero Dominaria. We're going to +1 him. We get to draw a card, and then we can untap 2 lands. Or we can -3 and put any non-land permanent on top of its owner's library. Or we can -8, then we get an emblem. Anytime we draw a card, we get to exile any target permanent a opponent controls. Now we have Teferi 3. Opponents can only cast spells during their turn as sorceries. Or we can +1. The next sorcery we cast can be cast as a instant. And then -3, we can return a artifact, creature, or enchantment back to its owner's hand, and we get to draw a card. Okay, let's get into the land base. This is a very simple budget land base. So we have our command tower, our hollow fountain, our flood farm verge, our henge gate pathway. I like these because it gives you the option of if you need white mana or blue mana. Now we have Nimbus Maze. This one is very similar to the Flood Farm Verge. We have our Glacial Fortress, Prairie Stream, Irrigated Farmland. The cycle lands are going to be very good in what we're doing because if we don't need the land, we just cycle them and draw a card. Secluded Steppe as another cycling land. Lonely Sandbar. Now we have a couple fetch lands. So we have Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. I like these in 2-color decks because you're not really focused on finding a very specific land. You can just go get basics. Sometimes basics are the best way to go. Now we have some utility lands. Of course, we have Reliquary Tower. That way we have no maximum hand size. Now we have Mikakoro, Center of the Sea. We're going to activate Mikakoro, and each player will draw a card. Now we have Rogue's Passage. That way, one of these very large creatures will be able to deal combat damage. Now we have Scavenger Grounds. That way we can deal with all the graveyards. We have 12 islands and 7 plains. And that was the Commander deck tech for the Easter Bunny, or Kwain, Itinerent Meddler. I really hope you guys enjoy your Easter. Be safe out there. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.